I want to welcome you all and bring to order this January 10th, 2022 regular meeting of the Owen County Council. At this time, if you would, stand with me, say a pledge, American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Our Father, we come here tonight to be leaders of the people, for the people, and by the people. We ask for your blessing. We ask for knowledge. We ask for compassion as we deal with the business of Owen County. We ask for protection for our firefighters, our police officers, our jailers, our 911, our EMS. We ask for blessings upon the people of Owen County. Lord, keep them safe. In your Son's most holy and precious name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
This time, if you're visiting with us tonight, you would take a moment to sign in on the sign-in roster, the entryway. I would appreciate it. This time, I want to make a point of order, and that is November 8th, I took a position with a big company, and between that and other obligations, I deemed it necessary that I do not seek office on this council. So I will not be in the running for president or vice president at this time. Okay, with that, I will open nominations for, as we reorganize for the office of president. I nominate Amy. The nomination of Amy.
I'll second that.
Seconded by Anton. Further discussion.
I nominate Polly.
You nominate Polly. Well, wait, okay, can we need to, we've got a nomination and a second. So do we?
First, ask her if she's willing to accept the nomination.
Yep.
You are?
At this time, for personal reasons, I feel like I could not do the job to the best of my ability.
If she doesn't accept the nomination, are there any other nominations? Excuse me for taking it in.
We've got you. Is there anyone else to be nominated? Or any other nominations?
Did you get
girls? I got Polly's. Oh, okay. Anyone else?
Can I make a motion we close nomination?
Second that.
Okay, nominations are now closed. At this time we will vote. All those in favor? Polly's president. Okay, so I will let you open up nominations for vice president. If you want, you can move over here.
Well, first I appreciate the nomination, and I will give it my 110%, I promise. And if I am doing something that I need to, you need to correct me on, please feel free, because I want to, thank you. So with that being said, I open, do we have some nominations for vice president?
I nominate Earl, vice president.
Second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor of Earl being, well, yeah, I,
Who had seconded that, Polly?
Yeah.
Amy
Amy
seconded.
did, yeah.
Got it. I'll move that we close nominations.
Okay.
There would have to be a motion, so second close, if that's what you said.
Second?
I'll second.
No.
Oh, did you make a motion?
Yeah. No, I thought you did the motion.
I did make the motion to close the
Yeah,
nomination.
and I said second.
Okay. So all in favor for Earl being vice president?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, moving on. So in front of you, you have your minutes, and take a few minutes to look over them and then.
Motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Motion made to approve the minutes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Anton. All those in favor?
Aye.
Stay. So 6. Okay. Old business. All right, in front of you, you have the financial review and monthly reports, and Jim is under the weather, so he is not here, I assume.
We provided you guys with a copy of the current funds that are in the red, as well as the receipts and expenditures and the balances. We're down to only 5 funds in the red, and 4 of them are grant funds, so they will continually, one of them, Donna's 8904, that one will either be in the red or 0 at all times. The others vary depending on reimbursement. The 524,000 payroll clearing, that is the one that has continued for several years now to run in the red, and that will be addressed by State Board of Accounts. You also have a copy of the financial review fund, and if you look at the 3rd column from the right, it'll show you what our current balances were as of December the 31st. A little bit different than Jim's report. It shows you the entire year of what the beginning balance was, the receipts, the expenditures, and the ending balances. This is something that has to be submitted for the annual financial report as well.
I do want to point out that as we're looking over our monthly receipts and expenditures, that the majority of the months, except for, of course, May and December and September, we're still spending more than we're receiving. So we have got to get that under control if we're going to continue to go in the right direction.
Can you clarify that again, Polly?
On our the monthly receipts and the expenditures,
Mm-hmm.
for the last year, that we are in the red. I mean, we were in the red receiving.
Yeah, for last
Yes.
year,
Yes, for last
Okay.
year, yeah,
because currently that's reversed.
right.
Okay, just want to make sure.
I'm just saying that, we need to keep a handle on that. So is there any more that we need to do with those? Okay, on the next old business is the Arpa Funds.
I think he's gonna present a couple of different things. We have received an email from the Treasury stating basically, Gary, jump in if you want. April the 1st was supposed to be the set deadline or the new deadline that basically you can spend the funds in a lot more majority ways. The commissioners had received it and was discussing it at the last meeting. They've left the door open. It could start immediately. As long as that they will adhere to what the rules are that have been set for the April 1st date, so they don't have to actually wait until April the 1st. But given the timing of getting things pulled together, it's probably still gonna be March and even maybe that April date before a bigger plan can be developed. You have to go off of what the current plan is, which was the other part of, I am not prepared because again, we were all counting on Jim to be here tonight.
She like to jump in on this anytime if you want me to.
So on the ARPA funds, the plan that was met was that they had, they divided up in 3 different areas. The first one was basically for, I don't remember what you called it.
Premium pay.
Which is where basically it's the bonus that is to go to the employees. That is pending. We still have to pull together the total number of employees, full-time, part-time, the total number of hours that they have worked.
That has been approved by the commissioners. It's at your table tonight for a vote to approve that premium pay. We put $300,000 into that fund to give each employee and elected official, excluding the council and the commissioners, a $2,000 back. And part-time, $1,000. That has already been approved. Again, waiting for your approval this evening. Once that is done, it falls over to the auditor's lap, and it's be up to her to track those hours, turn in the proper paperwork to the state and federal government. But if everything goes right, that could actually be done by March. That money would be in our employees' hands.
I think that's something we need to do tonight.
And real quick, there was 2 other parts to that. We put $250,000 into infrastructure for broadband, and it was just a number we threw in there because this money can be moved around at any time. We're not stuck that once we put it there, that's what we have to spend it on. Then there was $1.4 million that we just left in the general, I don't want to say general fund, but in a general fund line to use for highway projects, whatever. We were waiting on the federal government to tell us, we were hoping that, and they did as of Friday, maybe Thursday, Anton, he sent out an email, and I talked to Jeff Peters and his group on Friday. They released that fund, anything about 10 million and below, basically gives us the open door as long as it's spent on projects. It's federal money, so we can't just throw it into our general fund and say, yay, we just hit the lottery or whatever. That's not gonna happen. So that plan will come before you later on. I'll just say right now, roads and bridges are a major problem in this county, and that's what we're probably gonna be looking at. But for tonight, you do have it on your table, a vote for the premium pay.
Was there a report or a written document on the premium pay that we're supposed to have, or?
It was passed in the commissioners meeting. Again, with Jim not being here, I'm assuming that he was going to bring that to you to vote on.
It was just the plan
It has
that was
been passed.
presented, correct. So we can go ahead and approve it tonight. We can give it a number because would it be a resolution?
It would be, he would put it together for you. But his intent was for it to be voted on tonight, and then we would move forward. He'll put the resolution together for the commissioners and the council, and then it'll be up to the auditor to go to work on figuring out who did what as far as their pay during COVID.
Well, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we authorize the county attorney to proceed with drafting a resolution based on the commissioner's approval for prep at our next meeting.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Anton, seconded by Andy. Do you have any discussion?
Yes, my question is there a window for individuals? Peg was clerk up till May of last year.
That question came up, and we decided that December the 6th would be the cutoff. If you were employed with the county from December 6th on, you would fall in that category.
Just last year.
Of this, yes,
So anybody employed prior to that?
prior to that would not.
Okay, because I thought this money was to go back and compensate individuals for the time that we had.
The problem that we've got, Nick, is we had to pick a date because we're gonna have people that has quit the day before, the day after. It becomes a spaghetti bowl, so we had to put a deadline cut on it, and it was done on the day that plan was voted on, and that was December the 6th. And I'm sorry, but that's just what was approved in the commissioners meeting. And Sheila, am I correct?
That's right.
Yeah, and the resolution is gonna specify more
Correct.
detail as to, there'll be a chart, there'll be detail as to who gets what, and then a grand total dollar amount cost, which would include FICA and perf and that stuff. And then, should we also, to be proactive, have some kind of a vote on advertisement from that ARPA fund for up to that dollar amount, or can we wait on that, or
I
what?
think we can wait till we get an actual amount.
Okay.
And that's where the auditor will come in and her staff to figure out the exact amount of people, who's gonna get the 2,000, who's gonna get the 1,000. Again, with the elected officials excluding, like I said, the council and the commissioners, there'll have to be a salary ordinance amendment for those elected officials. But they can receive it and should. Yes, Nick?
So Gary, the date was December the 6th of 2021.
2021, yes. And if I'm not mistaken, we had an employee leave on the Friday before that, and somebody brought it up, and it's like, we can go back. I mean, that never stops, so we had to get a date, and that's the date that we did that day.
Barnes and Thornburg will receive the list of employees, both full-time and part-time, and there is gonna be a percentage that will be for the part-time people, you know, somebody working 10 hours a year versus 10 hours a week, and so they will be the ones that will oversee what percentages are there, so it probably will be the March before. The resolution will be generic, just as was the commissioner's plan, because we need it to move forward so that we can, again, pull those numbers and get them to Barnes and Thornburg to be able to say, this is your exact chart of pay, because they do have the final word on what is paid.
And the best part, the money is here in Owen County in our bank account, so once this is all through, those checks can be cut immediately. Whenever that date, I don't mean tomorrow, but as in end of March, 1st of April.
Any other questions or discussion? Got a motion on the floor and seconded. Everybody in favor? Okay, on to new business. So we need to open the public hearing for the additional appropriation request. I think this deserves a little bit of discussion. It's been brought to my attention that we have some extra expenses already coming up that we were not prepared for. Gary, you want to talk about a little bit about the?
In our last meeting, actually the first meeting of this new year, the auditor presented me and the attorney as well with a letter stating the fact that we will be canceled from our insurance agent for our workman's comp as effective March the 31st. And that's pretty substantial. We put in roughly about a $30,000 increase, knowing that things were gonna go up. But now that we're being canceled, our insurance agent is shopping for additional workman's comp. And Tom, being an insurance settlement agent, he's aware of the consequences of this. This could be a $100,000 blow to the county's general fund over and above our normal expense. If anybody's ever had their insurance canceled or high risk, they know what that's all about. If you have teenage drivers, you know what that's about. This is workman's comp. Unfortunately, due to the sheriff department, the highway department, those are where those claims normally come from. It's just part of doing business. There's also a leg of that falls back to the previous auditor that our payroll was off, according to the insurance, by about $1 million. We were supposed to have an audit roughly of about $40,000. It was such a mess, they couldn't figure it out. So they basically just said, we're not gonna do an audit, so we're just gonna cancel it. So that's where we're at. So we've got 2.5 months to come up with a new company to cover us with workman's comp. And it's going to be a huge expense. So I just wanted to, and the council has the same letter that I have. I presented it to them this evening. And Sheila, if there's any more of that you want to add?
Just waiting, I do know John Parmley is working on it, and that's all you know, so can't really do a whole lot other than to make sure we don't have it, but it is going to most likely increase and add to the budget and having to make sure that we have the funds reserved or find where to pay them.
So in light of that, I am very concerned about our, and I know this is not gonna go over well, but I'm very concerned about our proposed pay raise for the circuit court. And I'm afraid this is gonna set a precedent, and I am a little concerned about that because we are already coming up with different, over and above what we had already budgeted for not only, insurance,
That's
but
good.
we don't know what else is gonna be in
You opened
the,
the public hearing, didn't you?
yes, I did,
Yes,
Yes.
you did.
yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt, go ahead, I'm happy to.
Yeah, well, then we're discussing it, so that this is the perfect time.
Well, first off, I'm not sure why the $13,000 additional appropriation is the one that's the most concerning, if we're talking about saving money, but, and I'm not trying to be a smart aleck, but, I just thought that was an interesting one to start out with if we're wanting to problem solve and, create some cushion in the general fund. We anticipate returning, I shouldn't say returning because that's probably not an accurate way of putting it, but we anticipate coming in under budget this year, $30,000 under budget. We have now left 2 positions open for months to create cushion in the general fund. Our people are being paid $10,000 less than every surrounding county. We have had trouble recruiting and retaining employees. And I know that there are other employees that are here and that your sort of worst nightmare scenario came true and that other offices were upset. But we have created a solution to have a leaner, meaner office at a very low cost to you, at a very low cost to the general fund. And other offices would be welcome to do that too, and we would support them in doing that. And we have a wage study that has called for this, and this would allow you also to incrementally implement that instead of having kind of a crushing cost doing all of it at once. So that would just be kind of where I would start the conversation about, moving forward with the appropriation.
I'm sorry, am I having deja vu or is anybody else hearing this? Did we not just talk and go through all this last month? So why are we going through this again?
I think because it is setting a precedent for the other, when Kathleen came for the 911, she had her own fund. And this is coming out of the general fund, which we're already facing some extra.
Okay, but they've already worked within their offices to create the ability to do what they requested to do, and we agreed with that. And that's why we went ahead and put it on the agenda for tonight. To have them reiterate and go through it again seems like hammering your head against the wall.
And when we did that, we knew we were returning some money back in, but $30,000 is gonna cover this for 3 more years even. We even everybody, I won't say everybody, but it seems like majority of the office heads always get money to go for travel and hotel and those expenses. We ate that this year, even though we weren't asked to do that, threw that $2,000 back in and threw it next year's and years to come. So we, good faith, relied on everything you promised us and turned in even more money. And so we support the clerk and anybody else that wants to come in for a raise. It's silly to say, we're not gonna give that to them now, when we found a way to make it work that's not gonna create the hardship that it has been all along. And if that's the case, then you should open up all the budgets for raises from the whole time when you approved the last budget. Why is this one the only one somebody wants to look at this point in time? I think Chuck's right. I think you made a wise decision. We vetted all that. Why is it just when we come, we have to have a fight?
Gary.
Sorry, Chuck. And again, Lori and Kelsey, I think the world of you guys, and I'm not here to beat up on you. These other two, the 50,000 and Chris is coming out of his budget money that's already there. It's not taking anything away from general fund, and I'm assuming Kathleen, yours is the same way. You're sitting in here.
Yeah.
So those aren't affecting the general fund, so to answer your question, that's why that's.
Yeah, and I'm not having to go at either of these departments, but if there's money that doesn't come out of the general fund available to them, then monies that do come out of the general fund to pay for things in those offices will be reallocated. I'm just saying, I'm not having to go at either of those departments.
Right,
It's just, you know,
that's why they're picking on the 13 that's coming out general, these aren't,
Right.
that's why.
Right.
but I mean, I'm saying you could free up general fund.
Right.
If other departments are flush with cash, or we can't have fundraisers, we are a general fund department. Every single thing in our budget comes out of the general fund, there's nothing we can do about that.
You can't do priority board and priority ones, or anything such as that. The reality is that we're faced with what we're at, and we need to be able, we've absorbed this for 3 months. And frankly, I've had one member out with COVID, another member out with bronchitis and pink eye. She's had people out too, and our people are still working and getting the job done every day. We didn't come running back. We don't come back after you pass the budget and ask for additional appropriations. If you've looked at our budget for years, it's rare that you ever see us coming back, because we try to give you a fair budget. And we probably could have spent some of the $30,000 we had. We didn't, because we knew where we were at. We made our cuts. And you made a wise decision that was supported by the evidence that we presented then. If those other departments want to come in and they want to take cuts, or they want to absorb their people and have other people do it and train themselves better, more power to them. But it's not fair to hold us differently in light. You've made these arguments with EMS, and I support the EMS and the decisions they've made. Same way with the sheriff's department and others. You've got some people that can work better and harder than other employees. And you just have to reward those that can. We can't lose them. How are we going to compete with the private sector today if you're not going to let us find a way to support our staffs?
And I think too, if you
That's
look,
every staff.
that's true, so have a new.
I've
Yeah.
got a question for Sheila. Sheila, have you, of course, I don't know what you can answer without Jim too, but, I wished he was here to talk to him. Do we have the extra money in the general fund? Would we have that?
Well, currently we have a positive balance. It's sustaining that throughout the year, knowing that we have extra costs and things that are coming up. The other thing that really want to make sure, again, and nothing against them or anybody else asking, is if you give them now, remember come August, you're gonna have to make sure you can incorporate all of those extra costs in the budget for 2023 and moving forward as well. So you just have to make sure you have enough funds that's gonna support this, going to allow other departments to present theirs at the next meetings or tonight, and how much is there, I can't say, I don't know what we're gonna bring in settlements, we don't know, just remember, in all of 2021, the $250,000 a month that came in was only enough to pay payroll. So we've added all these costs back into there, even with moving the sheriff's department out. You're still going to have to make sure you can maintain that with the settlement funds that come in. I'm not saying that you can't do it, you just have to keep that in mind, because if you give them a raise now, you have to maintain that and moving forward. You can't say, well, we don't have money, you're going back down.
We think our budget can do that. It hasn't passed. We gave you back 30,000.
That's it. First of all, I appreciate you guys both, and there have been times that I have voted on things you guys needed, so I'm not, it's really not the argument about your guys' budget for me. Clearly, you guys put together ways that you guys could save, you justified, why your employees needed it all. I think you guys wrapped up a very good presentation last month. The reason I voted against it is because of money in general, and I knew or felt that if we gave you guys a raise, then what stops every other department within the general fund coming back and saying, we needed a raise, and oh, by the way, we want it backdated to 1 January as well, because that's the fair way to do it. And I wasn't comfortable with the fact that we had just raised taxes on the public, we had just cut jobs within other departments, we were still in the red last month, just submitted an approved budget to the state and then just added to it. So those were the reasons why I was against it. As far as merit, as far as your people, you know, you guys are a stand-up group. Those are the reasons why. And, oh, by the way, when Jim was put on the spot and asked, do we know where we're at this time to know whether we can afford these things? He said no. So that's why. That doesn't help your cause, I know, but I'm just explaining why I voted the way I did.
Clarification, I don't think we started January 1. We were not even gonna think about starting until February 1 because we knew we were absorbing it.
Okay, then February 1.
And if you also remember, I had asked the clerks who were sitting here, would they be willing to wait till March 1st? And they said yes, and then we all agreed on February 1st.
And the only other thing I would want to point out is I really think if you were to look at our previous budget years, so if you're wanting to make decisions about, okay, not wanting to do this department by department, or whether or not there's money, I mean, I would say that we're probably one of the few departments in the county that our budget has shrunk. So we got rid of the commissioner, we got rid of the commissioner staff person, we did, so we've really tried to be a lean, mean, efficient system, and we appreciate the things that you guys have given us before now, but this is just really, I mean, this is critical.
I want to say that whenever this whole mess came about, that the court stepped up and cut, you guys were the first people to cut a position. Guys,
Our people also worked when the building was closed, they worked from home, when other people were getting paid to not work, our people were working.
my issue is that, Kelsey, when you sat down and you said, you know, $13,000, my problem is you take those 4 people and $13,000, or I think it was 4, was it 4?
I'm sorry?
Was it 5 people and $13,000, and you start multiplying the entire courthouse against that as with a fairness factor, that's what, and the other things I mentioned, but I just, again, want to commend you guys, because you guys have done a good job.
Go ahead.
I'd make a motion to go ahead and approve the additional appropriation request for PSAP 1235 for $30,790.70, and that's 1151 at $50,000, and circuit court 1,000 for $13,000.
I second.
Do we want to put that all in one, or do we want to do each one separately?
That's what we just got a motion for, and it's done, the motion has been seconded.
Any more discussion?
I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to amend to separate out the dispatch and circuit court and consider the EMS appropriation by itself.
So do we need a
Second.
second for that?
Second.
Seconded by Amy? So can you reiterate that? Say that again.
The original motion from Councilman S was to approve all 3 together.
Right.
And that's been seconded. My motion is to amend that to separate off the dispatch and court and take action solely on EMS.
So just take action on the EMS
Correct.
at this point?
Yep.
And we have a second? Do we have any more discussion?
So the first vote is on the amendment,
Right.
so.
So with the, okay, we will vote on.
You would have to vote on his first.
We have to vote on.
No,
You vote on the amendment first.
and the amendment first.
Okay, got you.
Okay, so we have any more discussion?
Did you get a second?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes. I'll call for a vote for the amendment to separate the EMS out. Those in favor? We got 4.
What?
5.
5-2.
Opposed? 2. Motion carried.
So now the original motion as amended is to approve the EMS request as presented.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
So it's now amended, the original is to simply approve the EMS appropriation.
Okay, so that, now do we need a?
Final vote.
Okay, final vote. So the final vote is to approve the EMS 1151 for 50,000. Call for a vote? Yes, calling for a vote. In favor? 7-0. Where did we go?
Okay, now.
Well, Chuck might want to make a new motion then to approve, if he wants to, the other two. Kind of in a roundabout way, but
Motion to approve the other two.
A second.
So, motion made by Chuck, seconded by Nick.
I have some discussions.
Let's have them, on the, okay, Sheila, can you make it a little clearer on the PSAP? What's the 30,797?
Those are the numbers that Anton worked with Kathleen on to come up with the total cost of the 30,797 to bring her, or to add the pay raises to her staff at the 1708 an hour.
And that's coming out of her fund.
And that is coming out of her 1235 fund.
yeah, and just for clarity, the 30,797, that is the grand total cost, additional, which would include FICA, perf. So at least this advertisement says it's going all into regular wages. Is that technically correct? Or it could be transferred
It can
out?
be transferred out, it's just entered into Gateway as a total
I just want to make
amount
sure we're
for
not
wages.
doing something wrong.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Yeah, and this is pretty close to your cost estimate. I don't think there was really any significant surprise on this. It was very close. There were just a couple of staffing-related changes that had occurred in that time period, so there were, I think the cost wound up being a little lesser than anticipated. But technically, everything was in place.
Yes.
I think last month when we listened to the judges present their case, we had chose to allow this to take place. I do understand. I want everyone out there to know that I would like to see this thing go back to where it was before we had all this financial crunch. But right now, the horse is out of the barn. I don't know if I'm willing to back up and say, no, I will not give you that. I made a vote to do that. So whatever y'all do and whatever I have to do, I just want everybody to know. I really, this is a tough situation tonight. So actually what we're trying to do is rescind maybe the 13,000 that we're going to give to the court. So I spoke my piece.
And I feel the same way. I feel like we discussed it, they presented, we were all on board. And I don't like feeling like we say yes and oops, no, something's, and I know that's part of the job. But I also remember when we met over at the IGA building and times afterwards that you guys being the first ones to say, we will give, we will give, we will give. I don't want to give forever. I remember you saying that. I'm done and hopefully you will give back to us when we get through this. I remember those
And it's all
words.
nice for us to say it, but it's our staff that bears the burden of us
I
getting those things
understand
done.
that, but you did what you
Yeah,
said.
And we relied on what you told us, and so we've had
I-
doing it for 3 weeks now on our own, because we've not trained somebody new, although we won't find anybody, so we took you at your word.
And you should be able to.
Gateway. And it could take another 2 or 3 weeks.
Our staff knows.
Leslie Ann?
Would it be put on the agenda for next time to, have the staff, also with raises. We work for the courts, so, domino effect. They're here to support each other, so I'm gonna be put on there for them to have raises also.
And I'm happy to sit down with Leslie Ann, and if they wanna absorb some positions and find some cuts like we did, I'm happy to work through her budget with her, give some time for that.
We did cut, Judge Gould, we did.
So did we.
And yeah, we all have. It's been straight across the board. We've cut budgets. Nick, Peggy helped me. We cut it to the bare minimum to where Peggy said, you can't cut anymore or you're gonna be in trouble because there is no appropriations.
I think too.
Well, I would like to see us be able to, we're probably gonna have to put some other things back on the table, and I'll tell you why. Gary, if you've been told different, let me know, but I will tell you, from my position up till tonight, we may not have the mileage to go to the next settlement.
That is correct. We do not have enough money in general fund to make it through.
My only gripe to that is, when you have grants, because we've done a lot of grants for the county, we're quite a few of those grants from CASA to pre-trial release to always looking to try to make money so it doesn't come out of the general fund. Even if it doesn't come out of the general fund, somebody only has one, kind of well to pull from. The reality is that if you're not pulling from that fund, you could pull from another fund and they could absorb raises. So it's unfair to just keep saying it's just a general fund, it's just a general fund, when everybody else has other grant monies and opportunities they can pull from. We've given you an opportunity where you can look at some of that, where everybody can look at their budget and readjust it appropriately, just like you do at home when you gotta pay a different bill. And so it is wrong for you not to consider that for us right now.
And I want you to know, Judge, I'm just saying that we will have to probably put some other things on the table. I'm not saying shoot you down or whatever, I'm just saying we don't have the resources right now.
I agree, but we're putting in so much time getting grants to help the county all the time too, my staff's doing that. Okay, and if I don't have my staff paid what they need, I'm not gonna have them keep doing that, it's just not fair to them. So I think if you look at the grants we brought into this county, just like everybody else, we've saved you hundreds of thousands of dollars. In my 20 years, I think I probably saved you millions. So I don't think 13,000, when I just gave you back 30,000 last year, and the travel expenses last year without even thinking about it in this year is wrong. When we'll lose our people. You watch 911 go through it, you lost some good quality people. We cannot compete with the private market if we don't find better ways to adjust. And this is a way to do it. It's not gonna put a huge burden on the general fund or anybody else. And I will sit down with the other departments, and if we can start looking for grants, I do it every day. And I think they can look at some stuff too.
Well, I wanna say, and I agree that everybody in the whole system needs a raise, the whole system. But Jim has told us to cut and cut, and we have come to a point to where we are just about even now. And I don't think, if she can show me where we can pay for that, I would agree with it. But until I know that we're gonna be able to pay for it, I just can't vote for it, because on kind of, it's one person, just like the clerk's office. I know you all need a raise, but it just comes down to this person needs another raise, this person needs another raise, and the first thing you know, we're in debt that much more. We can either.
I disagree on that, Jerome, only because you gotta start fighting with the private factor, and this is the first time that, in this capacity, we've come and showed you a way to do it by absorbing the personnel. And no offense to Sam or anybody else and the other officers, but nobody else has got to push back on that particular issue of it, because you passed it on along maybe when you shouldn't have, and look, I don't wanna be in the red either, that's why we gave back 30,000 and gave you a really legit budget this time, and that's why we.
I understand it fully, but, and if Jim can show me, I just can't see that with $800,000, it's gotta last us till July. I just can't see how we're gonna do it. I might be blindsided, but I just don't see how we can do it.
Just like everybody everybody else.
Anton, what did you say that's not accurate?
Yeah, that's not accurate. We have a huge amount of income tax now that's already started to come into county revenue. So, yeah, the settlement in our balance, if you look at that by itself, is very limiting. But you're forgetting we have a monthly income tax amount that's coming in and we had moved the sheriff's obligations out of the general fund. So,
You're talking about the PSAP income tax coming in? That's
I'm talking-
the sheriff.
yeah, I know, but then what happened is that was taken out of the general fund, so your normal income tax revenue is still there. That's coming
They're
into the
making
general.
payroll with that money coming in.
I don't think so, cause we took a lot out of the general fund, so.
To get us back even, because we were in the red so far. What
was
we did is
significant.
raise enough tax to break even for 2022. There's a lot of people who don't understand that. There is no windfall at the end of this year. We're gonna be lucky if we're zero or breaking even with a little bit of cash at the end of this year.
Yeah,
That was the purpose
I don't
of that.
necessarily agree with that assessment, but I'd have to look at the numbers, you know.
And if you have staff leaving, we're gonna be hurting as well. Y'all gotta make tough decisions, and I think you made good ones the last time you looked at it, when we presented it, you relied on it. You don't go back on everybody else, twice, it just this.
We get income tax revenue every month.
I would like to say that I would totally agree with them, that every staff here, everybody's cut, every office has cut something, we're behind. I've been here 5 minutes, okay? And they're right, we need raises. Since I started, we've hired a gal, it's hard to hire somebody. We sent out 15, we got back 15 resumes. One person called back, one. That being said, I've got to hire somebody else. Because now there's 3 of us in the office, all of us are brand new. However, we gotta stop the bleeding. If we're ever gonna get out of the hole, we have to stop the bleeding first. And if we don't, this whole argument that we just continue to have, we're gonna continue to have.
Madam Chair. I'd like to make a motion to separate these two and pull the the PSAP out on its own and deal with that issue at present.
It's a motion to amend.
Motion to amend.
Do we have a second?
Well, I'll second the amendment.
So we have an amendment to pull the PSAP out separate and a second to that. Any more discussion?
So that the only thing that we're gonna consider is this circuit court, is what you're saying,
No.
what you want.
Okay, wait.
That's
Two
correct.
separate.
Could go either way. What route did,
We're gonna consider only the circuit court.
so, okay, so it's basically removing PSAP from this and then, okay,
Okay.
got it.
So right now, you're just wanting to focus on the circuit court.
I apologize, should not have made the motion to second them being put together. Sounds like we need to address these issues separately, and move on to that.
We had a second, didn't we?
Yeah, on the amendment.
Okay, on the amendment, yes.
So then, okay, we'll have to take a vote.
So we need to take a vote on the amendment to separate out the PSAP. All those in favor? 5. Opposed?
Girl, are you abstaining?
Yeah, I'm staying.
Okay. Okay,
Okay, so we've separated out, so now we are dealing with the circuit court only, and only, okay. Yes.
so do we need a motion on that then?
Yeah, sure.
Well, we already have the
Yeah, we already have
amended
it.
motion.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I guess it goes with
Dealing
it.
with the circuit court.
Okay, so any more discussion on that?
I'm just gonna say, had worked very closely with the courts. They were very good to work with. We've got our numbers down. I think we're set on all that. I did commit to help with that. I was not in favor of doing this originally. I'm just gonna stick with that vote because I support a comprehensive solution, which I'm hearing more and more coming back to. We'll talk about that later, but I'm just gonna stick with my original vote on this one. Nothing against courts or anything, but I'm gonna be consistent on my vote.
I just have one question, Madam President, and that's if, what do we do, what are we going to do about everybody else? I know that there is a motion right now to have a comprehensive plan. I mean, at what point are we going to discuss maybe how we're going to pay for the rest of the folks under general fund, or is this gonna be one solo deal?
Well, it's on the agenda for further discussion.
Yeah, point of
We're
order,
talking
that's
about
not even on the agenda, we can't, if you wanna put it on the agenda, that's one thing, right now it's sitting before us, it's a circuit court. I wanna call the question, my last statement is, we said something last month, and means something different.
Okay, fair enough.
So now we are voting on just the circuit court. I want to make that clear, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and call for a vote.
Okay, let's call for a vote. All in favor? Opposed? So 3, 4. So 3 to 4.
I'm presuming the money we turn back in, we definitely relied on your promise, we can come back and reapply for some of that now? There's travel and quarter pays that, you know, we didn't have the part-time people and those things that we can have them come in and make up for that since they've been eating it this amount of time.
I've hired a part-time person.
Yeah.
So do we need to make a motion then to reverse back so you gain the full-time position back? Is that?
Yeah, we need
I
a
would like
full-time, we need a
Okay.
part-time, and, yeah, I'm gonna take the
Yeah.
travel money that everybody else is getting, and, you know, it's gonna cost more money than what that $13,000 is. I mean,
So Your Honor, that's what you're saying is that really, we should have looked at this because what you could take back
more than covers.
could be
Isn't
more
that
than.
less?
Absolutely.
Last time.
Did look at it, we
This is what
did
was
last
said.
month, cannot believe this council.
We respect, I respect.
I respect you making your decision, but you're going back in
It's
your word.
because somebody else doesn't
I'm not
like it,
going-
they're not getting it.
Back on anything, Chuck.
Somebody did.
Well, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion that we restore the previous scenario for the courts before they made their proposal. And that's technically already had been approved up to that point because it was a part of our budget that we already accepted back in, submitted to the state. So there's nothing really surprising about that.
I want $30,000 that I turned in to be able to catch back up and make up for what we didn't turn claims in for, that we personally, as well as avoided buying, thinking we can get by with, didn't wanna add anything to it, so if we have.
Are you talking about in 21, like from the
Yes,
beginning of 20?
December 31st, we didn't submit claims because you told us what we're doing here, so we ate it.
So my motion at the moment, just to keep things fairly simple, is just what we had originally approved for the 22 budget, her staffing arrangement and her budget that she had approved already. We need to restore it to that if we aren't gonna proceed with the change we had voted on last month.
Yes.
So we have a motion though on the floor, so it would need a second or it dies.
Second.
Motion made to restore back
It's
to,
what we budgeted for.
right,
Back to the 22 budget that was
I
already
just don't
approved.
declare this past the claim time, because we're gonna go back and spend what we were entitled to, if we didn't put in, so I'm telling you.
You know, I'm just I wanna say something, and I usually try to keep my personal opinions, but I can't. I think that long ago, when we first started with all of this budget stuff, one of the first things we said, we've gotta have a hiring freeze, gotta have a hiring freeze. Well, that didn't last very long. Somebody'd come and they'd say, I need one more, and then the next person, and then pretty soon we said, oh, well, let's just forget that, right? And then we said, no raises, no raises, and I stuck to my guns on no raises and nothing against 911. I believe they needed it. And I said,
They did need it.
if we do this, you're gonna be opening up a Pandora's box and other people are gonna come in and they're gonna say, we need it, we need it. People said, no, that's not gonna happen. Look what's happening. So I believe that this council needs to make a decision, stick to their guns. If we say, no, we're not gonna hire, no. If we say, no, we're not gonna have raises, no. But I also feel like last meeting, we made a decision, and I know this workman comp thing came up and it made a huge difference. But people, didn't you know this was gonna happen? It was just gonna snowball and it was gonna continue and continue and continue. They came up with a plan. Now, if we go backwards, everybody's gonna do the same thing. Am I thinking wrong?
Price of a car. You guys value cars and giving that to people more than what you just did with your staff. We found a way to make it work.
Last
Sorry.
month,
And
we listened to their plan. We said we'd go with it. We cut their full-time person so they could have the court reporters, okay? Well, you just denied them the ability to have the court reporters. So for their 2022 budget, which by the way, if anybody was here last month, they would have heard that. It wasn't from a previous request earlier in the year. This was specifically for 2022 where they cut a full-time person so that they could get the court reporters. So we have to restore that at the very minimum. And it's got nothing to do with the other offices that we asked to get rid of somebody. This was from the 2022 budget only, not the 2021 year. So anybody who's got those two things confused, you should have been here last month to hear out their proposal so you understand where we sit. So yes, we have to do return that to them. But I'd also like to say this. I'm disappointed. I'm just absolutely disappointed. I mean, you know, they came and they made an articulate argument. They sacrificed a full-time position. We agreed to it. Now, this is the Pandora's box. No, I knew the Pandora's box was kind of get open, but it would be up to each leader in each office to come to us and do what they did. And they didn't yet. They have time this year. But we agreed to it. And when we agreed to it, somebody decided to go against their word. And I'm just, it's no wonder I don't want to run for this freaking council anymore.
Phil Smith or Clinton, appreciate it.
I just hope also this does not affect 911 because they needed to. And
Absolutely.
I don't just,
We still need to take the vote on where they get a full-time person back. Otherwise, we're leaving their office.
Didn't we have something on the floor?
Yes, it was, and I seconded it.
Yeah, and again, that was to simply restore it back to the 22 budget, the staffing arrangements, which I included, correct me if I'm wrong, included 5 full-time individuals before.
plus a court administrator, right?
Well, yes, but there were 5 support staff, court reporters. When we had originally changed it to 4, so we need to change that back to 5. Were there any other adjustments besides?
I'll have to look, I relied on what you said last time.
We've given the part-time and the change, but that's gone now. But was there anything else that was?
There were 2 positions,
Cut
there were
or-
2 full-time positions that we took away and added a half-time position to pay for this. So there were 2 full-time positions, including what we gave up during the budget process.
There was only 5 before. Where's the second one coming from, position-wise?
Cause you, I had.
Because going into 22, we had 5.
Okay.
think we're good on 5.
Yeah.
That's what I had, so, okay.
So, motion on the floor to,
Restore back to the
back to the
22 budget we approved prior.
right,
December.
Is that all gonna cost more than the $30,000 that?
Everything.
Well-
Like I said, you're gonna be getting some past claims, because I'm gonna look at what we didn't spend that we should have and could have, that we were avoiding and put it off, so. Everybody else can do it, we're gonna start trying to. It's $13,000, it's not even a car, not even a used car anymore.
so,
You know,
we have a second?
Judge, we're looking at a big picture.
I get it, big picture.
And if that's your,
Sam Hobbs has got people and officers all the time, EMS, I support both of them, they're needed. Just because some other office is not getting it, doesn't mean it's not the right decision for us. It was the right decision to be made, we have staff that deserves it. This is ludicrous, gentlemen and ladies. Stand by what you voted on. It's
I know that this was gonna happen.
I know where you
Well,
voted,
it happened.
you voted against it, and so I.
They were all here,
totally
everybody was
get it.
okay with us.
But when they
Now
have
they're not here.
Starbucks.
Don't look at me.
No, I'm not.
I agree. I
Stop
mean,
looking at me.
you gotta make tough calls, but you gotta start looking at everything else, and I think when somebody just wants to stir it, the reality is that this is not the right decision, and it'll end up costing you
it's
more.
not a personal call.
It is personal to us and our staff.
Madam President, can we call a vote, please?
Yes, call for a vote.
There's a lot of things that are personal to us all, not just them, but just like the assessor's office. You took the assessor's money 2 years in a row. 2 years in a row, you took his money. You cut him 2 people and left his staff, which was me, with nothing. And I said, but that's okay, isn't it? Because you never gave him any money back and you never helped him with anything. So now you've got an office down there that's got 3 new people that doesn't know what's going on. So I hope you appreciate the fact that you took his money 2 years in a row.
Okay. All those in favor of restoring?
Yeah, I
And then, yes.
It's basically what happened, but is there a?
There's
amount
no
of money?
cost
There's
because
no-
we already
that's what I was
approved
gonna say.
3,
What's the difference?
5, 6, 7.
That's where they was at.
Where there was that.
It's gonna be all the
So
redos.
moving on to,
Make a motion to pass the TSAP.
any discussion? I will say on, the reason I was for 911 and not the circuit court was because 911 has her own fund. This is not general fund is what is bleeding. And that's where we have our problems and our issues at. She has her own fund, she's proven that she can self-fund this, and that's why I was for this.
So we shouldn't even acknowledge it.
We
And-
just,
and-
out of the
and so-
general
Right,
fund, right.
So, that's,
So we have, we have a motion on the floor? Okay, we have a motion on the floor, and it was seconded
Yeah, by Nick.
by Nick. Any more discussion? All those in favor? It's for the 911 raise. 1, 2, 3, 4. Opposed? Are you voting, Carl? Are you abstaining?
Yeah.
Okay. 4, 2 opposed, and 1.
421.
Okay, 4, 2, 1.
So as departments are moving forward in the bigger picture, you still have this open box of people who have grant funds, other options, general fund monies. I have a part-time position. They're all still gonna come back. We're still gonna have people coming and saying, can we do this or this? So I do think we need to get a clear picture on the basics of the county general fund that might be able to support this or the possibilities that are out there, because again, there's gonna be others that are gonna come and say, well, I can do this and I can do that, or, and again, you know, I have a part-time position and I can't even find a part-time person that wants to come in and do it. So I could be sitting here saying, can I use my money to give my people raises the same as some of the other departments can? I think it's more important to look at the bigger picture, where we're gonna get more, try to get that accurate numbers on the revenue and possibly where these can be supported. And I would be the first one to say that if we get to that point, please allow the judge and them to come back first.
I think we just, right now, we don't have a handle on what the yearly picture is going to look like.
I think, Sheila, I think that was really good.
Well, again, you're gonna have people that are gonna come. So you said it best, I agree. If you're gonna say, this is what we're doing, stick to it. And if you're gonna change, then make sure that it's something that everybody wants to be on board for. I've heard a lot of things in the last several weeks on raises and not raises, and well, I can do this and I can do that. So again, just know that you're gonna have other people come in, so I do think it's important, again, to get a handle on where the general fund's at and possibilities of revenue.
Thank you.
Diane?
I will tell you that, spring collection is going to be extremely difficult with two of us, is what I'm left with. In 2021, we took in over $50 million in cash. Disbursements are almost $47 million. There's two of us. That's just dealing with the cash. That's not dealing with people. That's not a collection. That's not doing the reconcilement. I can tell you, we have till June 20th to do our part of the settlement. I did talk to State Board of Accounts. What if we can't meet that date? I have internal controls that I cannot sacrifice. We match to the penny. We take our internal controls very serious. That's why we make sure everything matches every day. I lost half of my staff. I had two people. One of them is gone. I am not sure, you know, we are used to doing settlement within a week of our due date. We won't be able to do that in the spring, which means the county will not get their portion of the money until later. So we need to fund the offices.
So, are we ready to?
Comment to that. She had an employee out sick today. Not sure if she'll be back in this week or not. I had to let her use one of my employees to keep things going over there. I do not mind at all. I'm not begrudging helping out, and we do when we can. But we do seriously need to think about this particular situation if one or the other is out. Diane is not feeling good herself either. What if that office is closed? What is our backup? What is, so it is important to try and make sure that there is a backup plan as well.
Agree.
I'm sorry, it's too loud out there.
So at this time, are we ready to close the public hearing?
Yes.
So I move that the public hearing is closed. We'll move on to 911 dispatch.
I gotta shift brain and think about what I even want to talk about, because I didn't know that my funding had the potential of not passing. So a couple things, I did work with Anton, we bounced numbers back and forth after you guys approved the base rate increase for employees in dispatch. That is where this number comes from that you guys did approve for the additional appropriation. Just a reminder, that does come from my cash funds that is currently in my 1235 budget. So that is monies that I already have. Again, this is something that is sustained for several years. I'm not gonna go into all of it. Since the pay raise occurred, I did have an employee that requested to return back to dispatch. So I have hired that person back. So we are currently short 2 within the dispatch center. I do also have a newly hired employee that found out Sunday. I don't have the full paperwork yet, but he is in the National Guard and he is being activated. So, so then we will be down 3, but we're gonna make it work. Just gonna have to fill his shift with overtime, because, you know, that's what we gotta do, and I understand that he's gotta do what he's gotta do. So, I commend him for doing that, because, originally it was volunteer, and then it went to, it was no longer volunteer, and he got tagged to go in, so, so that's where we sit with that. I do have interviews on Friday, so hopefully we can get at least one person out of those. I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember some of this stuff. I just put in a bazillion hours covering shifts as well, and I thought I had all of this stuff in my brain, and this is what I get for not writing anything down.
Radio project?
Radio project, thank you. We did meet today with J&K through my advisory board. We didn't have a quorum, but we were still able to meet with them because there were no decisions that were made. It was just more of an update, I'm sorry. 100% of our equipment is in. It is currently being staged at the Indianapolis office and some of it at the Columbia City office. They are in the process of programming all of the radios. They're gonna try to get me a potential start date of the new tower by the end of this week, so we'll know about when that's gonna happen. That pretty much relies on tower climbers availability. So there was the possibility with them for a little bit that the price has changed greatly for the equipment off of what they quoted us at. However, they are going to stick to their quote, and they're not going to charge us the additional monies that they kind of could ask for, so they're not gonna charge us that additional money in labor. I do have 2 transfers that Sheila just showed me. Forgot all about those. I submitted those a while ago. That we have to, and that will just kind of finalize the pay raise numbers. So gonna be taking some of the money from what we initially had set for consulting help and shifting that into FICA and PERF instead of using consulting work. It keeps a little bit of money in there, but we haven't used Ritter Strategic Services in over a year, so I don't foresee us needing to use him going into 2022.
I only had one.
Is there just the one?
Did you get one? I think they're all the same.
So those 2 are different.
So forget this game.
It's just one.
It's just one?
Just the one? Okay.
It's just one. Like I said, I just put in 120 hours in the last couple of weeks, so everything's still a little fuzzy right now. I believe that's about it. That if it's not coming to me, must not be that greatly important, and I'll remember it for the next meeting, and I'll write it down, I promise. Do you guys have anything for me?
Well, if, I wanna make a motion that, we would transfer statewide 911 36200 to statewide 911 12100.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. If I remember, I'll shoot you an email or something.
Highway Department, is Greg out there?
Ladies and gentlemen, council members, I don't have a lot for you tonight, just a short report on staff. I've got 8 people out with COVID right now and another out with a serious illness, so my staff is cut to the absolute bare minimum. Today, after another individual had to leave for his wife, I operated the highway department with 8 people. I don't get a lot done with 8 people. Community needs to know that right now. I'm working on the community crossing grant, council members. I've had a chance to speak with some of you prior to the meeting. The matrix for the community crossing grant has been 25% of, 75. We've always provided 25% of $1 million. The matrix that I deal with now for the coming year's community crossing grant, which calls started January 5th and will end January 28th, is 75% of $1,333,333 for Owen County. We budgeted for 25% of $1 million grant. If the county wishes to seek the full $1 million for the community crossing grant for 2022, I must increase the county's input by $83,333.25. The $250,000, as the council know, was given to the highway department in their 2022 budget under through lit edit. Council members, whatever we decide this evening, whether it comes from somewhere within the highway department budget or other options, needs to be decided tonight, because the grant must be submitted by January 28th. And the auditor and I have to work closely together in order to get this job done. Commissioners Burton and Curry are here tonight to support me with this matter.
Yeah, I think we don't want to pass up the opportunity to get 4 times our money.
Right.
Or 3 times our money or whatever. We had originally budgeted the $250 match in our edit fund, and we've done that already for the 22 budget. So one option is to look at using that cash balance, which there is money there to support that, to make sure we don't miss out on this opportunity. Because this 83,333 will translate into 333,000 if we commit it. But if we don't, then we're leaving money on the table, so.
Anton, I agree
Sorry.
with what you're saying. No, I don't mean to interrupt you. I agree with what you're saying, but I also want to throw this in there, and I don't know for sure. Constantly looking ways to save the county money. I don't know if we can use Arpa funds for this down the road or not. And I'm thinking that we possibly can. But if we make the commitment tonight to use lit edit, we can always go back and make the adjustment to pay it out of that other money.
Yeah,
Just putting that out there.
of course, there'll be other road things we might wanna do with that
And there
anyway.
will be, for
So
sure.
at the end
We're
of the
just talking
day,
about
yeah.
83,000, so.
Fortunately, it's only, I mean, I don't wanna say only,
Yeah, I know, yeah,
but in the grand scheme of the numbers.
it's a small
Yeah.
amount, yes.
So, I mean, unless there's any objection, I'll make a motion to, that we make the commitment to fully fund a match for the maximum amount with the difference appropriated from our edit fund, pending any other option the commissioners might find on art.
Well, we can't make it pending, because he's gotta submit this by January 28th. Couldn't you make it more that we are gonna give the money and
Let's
then,
do it.
you know what I mean? Because they can fit it in at another time. I don't
We're
wanna
not gonna pay this check until like October, so we got.
Oh,
I'm not
well,
worried about that, that's why I want a commitment.
that sounds great if you're seconding that.
I am.
Okay.
So motion's on the floor, by Anton to go ahead and approve that, seconded by Chuck. Any other discussion? If not, let's call for a vote. All those in favor? 7-0.
Thank you, council members.
Thank you and good luck. Hopefully we have good news from that round.
Yes.
Thanks,
I add in your packets tonight, you had a copy of the year's budget that's printed out from DLGF. The very last page on it is actually the proposal that Greg and them had given on their cuts in his budget, just so, and I had also wrote in the margin, see the attached. So again, the last page is what his numbers are changed to, because DLGF does not change them in their printouts. So I've attached them all for you.
Great. Okay, Sheriff's Department, Sam.
Sir, I'll be short and sweet, I've heard enough already. Oh, man, but I don't think so. Jim drafted up a resolution for you, I think we should have a copy of the resolution. All it is vehicle rotation, we get $120,000 a year vehicle rotation. Buy 3 vehicles, rotate them out, you know, on a yearly basis. Of course, with our money being paid out of the public safety tax now, that money's not available. None of it. On a dime. We just got the first deposit the other day, so you can see on here on this spreadsheet, I got this amount and it matches the exact budget amount that you got from the state, so you're not over any of that fact that it's right down to the penny. The problem that we have, we've got 3 vehicles sitting on the lot that we can't pay for. We have the money. So I'm gonna take, I got money in my jail housing. I'm gonna take $80,000 of the jail housing money and buy 2 vehicles. This public safety tax money has to reimburse my jail housing money by the end of December, of the tune of $80,000. It's doable, it's legal. I talked to state board of accounts, talked to Jim, I talked to everybody there's talked to auditor. She's worked with us hand in hand. It's legal. The jail housing fund, you know, I can use it to different avenues, and this is the only avenue we got to get the vehicles bought. He's holding all 3 vehicles last year. We're gonna buy 2. Then as the money comes in every month, hopefully by March, by the 1st of March, we'll have enough money to buy the other vehicle. But regardless, by the end of this year, the $120,000 or the $80,000 will be repaid back to the jailhouse. Pretty cut and dry, yes.
Is this a simple transfer between jail housing and rotation?
It's an internal loan just for cash flow purposes. There's plenty of funds. If it wasn't day 0 of 22 in this new fund, it wouldn't be an issue. But obviously, the timing of it is critical. But if I may piggyback on that question, so why not do the 3 vehicles now instead of this?
I can't take 120,000 with jail housing.
Okay.
I've only got 150.
Got it, okay.
I got to hold some money.
Make a
Okay.
motion that we go ahead and approve the sheriff's request for $80,000 transferred from jail housing to vehicle rotation.
Internal loan.
Or loan, yes, purpose of the loan to be repaid.
Was that 80,000 for cars? I want to make sure I heard that.
That is
Yeah,
correct.
that's for cars.
Just checking.
I second.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Nick. Any discussion?
And again, just for clarification, this has already been a budgeted expense to purchase vehicles. It's a part of an annual rotation. There's no new
Right,
money
why
or
is it an annual
expense,
rotation?
but-
Why couldn't we decide that we're gonna delay that 1 year or 6 months or one less car for raises?
Yeah, I can answer that.
I'm not
Because,
saying they don't need it, but I'm just trying to figure out.
yeah, because for
what-
10 years, for 8 years, first in the Senate, this committee, we watched the sheriff's department go out of vehicles, and it constantly was an emergency repair, and it cost us more, which is why we set up the rotation. And the rotation is a 3-year rotation,
I'm
and
just saying,
each,
is this year the year that we could make it another year with buffer?
because he's got 2 vehicles that are sitting on the line he can't even use.
Just check that, I'm just trying to.
Trust me, I'm on your side here, I'm on your side, I can only do what I gotta do. Plus that, he's transferring something that isn't his own budget line item, and it's already been budgeted for the year, he just has to get it because he has got the vehicle sitting on the lot right now.
I would agree.
I think, if I may add, there was already a skipped year and a delay due to the budget.
That is true too, yes.
Same way for you.
Any other discussion?
I understand where the judge is coming from.
Yeah, I
Yes.
That needs to be in the motion.
Okay, so Sheila said we need to amend the motion, make sure that it's indicated that this must be paid back in the budget year
Friendly amendment,
2022.
I'll take it, accepted.
And I did find out from the state board of accounts, I talked to this in detail, because I asked this question. Because this is probably gonna come up sometime here this year. Internal loans have to be paid back within that year. All internal loans, it has to be paid back within a year, so that's why I'm telling you, that it has to be paid back by December 3rd, or whatever the last date is this year.
Fortunately, I can't recall a time that we haven't done it within a year. We've been pretty good on that.
They just wanna make sure that I pass out space with public safety tax money.
Friendly,
You got a motion on the floor, but the lawyer drew up a resolution. Shouldn't that resolution be handled before you do this other?
You adopt the resolution?
You adopt the resolution to satisfy the state board of accounts, right?
What we're doing, right?
Yeah, you probably were back up, adopt the resolution, so the state board.
I'm trying to tell you what to do,
I think we do have a motion on the floor to do that. And
I'll withdraw the motion so we can, if we go right to approving the ordinance. But I don't have it here in front of me, which is
Yeah,
why.
where is the,
Surprise, it was over
Here's the
is the
original.
ordinance? Okay.
the motion was to approve this ordinance. I don't
Do you
know.
have an ordinance?
Are we missing a step or?
Isn't that what it was?
There's only one ordinance.
Is that what it is? And that's what I just said?
Right.
Okay. Well, 2022-000 what? There, Sheila, 1, 2, 3, 4?
Probably the first.
I think it's first, yeah, 2, 002. 0, sorry, 3 zeros and a 2.
So a motion made by
Chuck,
Chuck and then seconded to,
If you want it reworded to approve resolution, how about that? I'll add the words, and if my second will approve, resolution 2022-0002. Is that better, Sheila?
yes.
I see what you were looking for. Thank you, Mr. Green.
and the second, we already had a second, or we?
Sounds great.
Okay. Any more discussion? Let's call for a vote. 7-0.
Okay, real quick, I do have another thing, and I'll try to make it short and sweet, but it just came up. And, first of all, my hat's off to Sheila, I know you've been working hard on 400,000 different things. And Sheila and Sergeant Browning's here, and the Chief Deputy Matt Miller, they're quite a bit smarter than I am when it comes to this verbiage, so. Holiday pay. We just got this, thing from the auditor's office, and, that the holiday pay supposed to be paid 8 hours, according, there's an ordinance that came out sometime back. I don't take any responsibility, according to the ordinance, anytime a thing is changed, a resolution is made, it's supposed to be passed out to all county employees. Okay, I think it's went to the department heads, and if I didn't get it sent out, or I'll blame the chief, he's out, and I know he's doing it, so. What it is Sergeant Browning doesn't understand the verbiage of this and how it comes to play, because now I have 11 employees that are being told that they gotta pay back these hours because they got paid 10 hours of holiday pay and not 8 for part of the year. So now they're in a situation, I think it was 11 employees, Sheila, well,
11 that have 8 hours total, 1 that has 4 hours total. The ordinance was passed last year, the first 4, 2 of the first 4 of the year were paid at the 10 hours, not the 8 hours. There was discussion in August that they were still getting paid. Long story short, we went through them last week and came up with the list of the ones that did get paid incorrectly, and sent that letter to Sam and Matt to pass on to the employees that they are due to get the 4th quarter of their holiday pay. So we were going to reduce that holiday pay, and or we give the option to, if they needed it, or if it was gonna create a hardship, that we would set up arrangements to come in and pay. Discussed this with Jim, he agrees with the corrective action that we've taken, and again, it is unfortunate that they were paid. Why it was only 11 of the officers, other than I think some of the misunderstanding was they have 10-hour shifts, I believe, so it was the 10 hours and holiday, not reducing them from 10 to 8, as was the new ordinance from last year. So again,
Sergeant, I'm gonna let Sergeant Browning, he wants to speak, because he's got a couple concerns, Sergeant Browning.
There's a few problems with it. So one officer was in the school, so he got a couple of holidays for 1 quarter, he owes 4, I think, from what the email said. The problem is the ordinance that was written, was never distributed to any of the county employees. The county employee policy says that any additional corrections or amendments would have to be done in official notice to the employees. I never received that notice, neither did any of the 12 employees, including myself that's on it. The first and second quarter, we were paid for 10 hours, which is what we physically work. The policy that I have says that I can read it verbatim here. It says the holiday pay will be calculated based on the employee's straight time pay rate as of the date of the holiday, times the number of hours the employee would otherwise have worked on that day. I would work 10 hours. Every one of the officers involved worked 10 hours. On the third quarter, I didn't realize it, but those 2 holidays that were on the third quarter, which was 4th of July and Labor Day, we were only paid for 8 hours. So the 4th quarter, we're now gonna get paid for 8 hours, and we have to pay back, according to what the auditor sent out to us, the hours that we were overpaid. The problem I have is, I was never, and neither was any of the 12 officers, ever given official notice by the county, whoever's responsible for it. It wasn't done, so this is a big surprise to all of us that now we are not getting paid for 10 hours. I don't really understand why a policy would be even amended to where, if I had to take a holiday and use hours to do it, and we weren't paid out quarterly, I would have to use comp time or benefit hours of some other type to be able to pay to take off, because I only get 8 hours a holiday, I have to use 2 hours comp or 2 hours vacation time for me to be able to take a day off. I work 10 hours, I should be paid for 10 hours. And because we weren't notified of it, I feel like we should be paid for 10 hours up through 2021, and because we haven't been notified, we should be paid for 10 hours for January 5th. And if the official notice is not given to the county employees by the 17th of January, then we need to be paid for 10 hours up to the 10th, to the 17th of January until the county policy is given to all the employees that shows the updated version. That's my opinion.
All right, so what's the distribution mechanism here?
It is the cost of the benefit is paid through the budget. So we set a certain dollar amount based on the hours and the wages and all that. But I can understand it's a predicament.
The problem is, so I work 80 hours regardless. Whether I work 10 hours or 8-hour days, I work 80 hours. But that holiday pay should still be paid at 10 hours. It's a benefit time. If I take a vacation hours are paid in at 10 hours because that's what I work by policy. Bereavement, if I have jury duty, if I have sick time, those are all paid at 10 hours. But for some reason, holidays are different, and I don't understand why. The only one the county policy says is different is if you're a witness in another county, the witness duty is specifically says 8 hours. Everything else says the rate of pay times the amount of hours you would typically work for a day. That the policy has it. I have it right here if you'd like to see it. At least the policy that I have been last given, and the vacation time was last updated, holiday pay was last updated in 2016 on the copy that I was last given.
Chief, you got any?
Sam, you wanna go ahead and repeat everything he just said?
I'm gonna make a proposal, and if it upsets people, you know, that's just the way it is. So I'll tell you straight up right now, everybody sitting in here, I love you and stuff like that, life's not fair. Life is not fair. Sometimes it sucks.
Live my life, you'll know it.
The problem of it is, it's not fair across the board. We gotta make do, we gotta hang on to what we got, and people, we gotta hang on to them, we gotta find ways to hang on to them. I just lost a full-time officer, left, gone. I got another one leaving. We can talk about this till we're blue in the face, we all know why they're leaving. It is, it's because of the money. It's the nature of the beast. We've been fighting this battle, I've been doing this, it's 15 years I've been coming to these meetings and stuff. It's not getting any better for the employees. You guys got a big hurdle ahead of us. We have a big hurdle ahead of us. It's not gonna be fair. Johnny's not gonna get 50 cents, and this is gonna get 50 cents, and that was gonna get 50 cents. It's not gonna work that way. We gotta take what we can when we can afford to do it. I remember when we came to you, and Andy was there, and Burl, and when we got our guys more money. It was a tough battle. We fought, we got some more money for the guys, and they know they're not getting a raise. They know. We had a guy come from Mooresville to apply for this job, and he sat down with me and Matt and the lieutenant, and the time he got done, he was crying because he felt sorry for us.
That's sad.
Because for him to come from over there, to come to here, and he really wants to work here because he lives in Owen County, $25,000 cut in pay. Because he's in Mooresville, PD. What I'm trying to say is if you have avenues to help departments, whether it's a little amount or a big amount, it makes no difference because it's not fair across the board. It's never gonna be fair, employees. It never has been. Nothing against the council. When you give a 2% raise across the board, it doesn't work. It never has, it never will. That's a dead horse. We're not going that direction anymore. We can't. But back to what we was talking. I like to see the guys go ahead and get paid, the holidays, at the 10 hours that they got paid. Let's come back together. It's not their fault. It's a tough situation. It'll be a decision you just have to make. Then let's come back when it's over and sit down and hash out. Big problem that you got is the policy manual for this county is in the suck corner. Anybody else want to agree to that? Yes. We've talked about this a long time. I mean, long before a lot of you just here. The policy manual doesn't fit my staff the same as it fits the courthouse staff or the EMS staff. A lot of work is going to have to be done to put into the personnel policy to make things change. And it's not gonna be the same over here as it is over here, so people are gonna have to live with it. My dad told me a wise decision, he said, son, you got two choices to make in life. On the back of something that's bothering you, you get over it or you die with it. Simple choice. It's not fair, life's not fair. But we cannot dog people, or dog our own employees, or dog another department because they're trying to do better for their department, because that's the only means that they have. Support them! Get behind them!
There you go.
Because I told you this last year, and I said it again, I'm gonna say it again in front of everybody. You know, I've only got so many months, I'm not going nowhere. But until you come together and you put God first, amen, and you pray about it, amen, and you just come together like human beings and adults and sit down at the table and I'll buy the piece and supply all the pop. Or die if you need it. Until you put God first. Amen. And I know there's a lot of good Christian people in this room right here. A lot of us, good Christian people. Until we sit out there in the big room and pray about it and forgive one another for all the BS that's happened, all the backstabbing, nail biting, BS that's went on, you're never gonna gain a thing here. You're gonna fight each other till hell freezes over. Please, I beg you, commissioners and council come together, let's have a public meeting, we'll all sit around and pray for an hour, we'll eat pizza and drink coke, we'll forgive each other, and we'll move on. It's the only way you're gonna survive in this county.
Amen.
Now, if I'm wrong preaching, that you all believe. Most of you I do. All of you believe I talk to you about God, talk to all of you about it. Talk to you about God, a lot of people out here about God. Preacher. Stand up for yourself if that's what you believe in. Because that's the only way this county is gonna get back on our feet, is to put God first and let Him direct us in our finances, in our attitudes, and our personalities. I like to see the guys get paid for the 10 hours until this is resolved. That's happening tonight, please.
Can we pinpoint the resolution or ordinance that changed that, so we know what the time date was, please?
Yeah, I've got it. So back, this is from Jim Bryan, January of 2021, almost to the day. He had advised that the Board of Commissioners had adopted the updated policy. And it does state the 8 hours and all that stuff. And I think the reason why that was done is because the whole point was that the courthouse positions, it was based on a day, and it was 8 hours or whatever it was. And so the value of those should be the same for anybody else in any other department. But as far as, I can't find any, sometimes the auditor's office, would have sent out updates like they normally do, but I don't see that email.
The policies are sent out to the department heads. That has been a practice since, and I do know that they had the policy, Matt and Sam, Kathleen, everybody had that policy. Why it wasn't enforced, and again, from our standpoint, had an employee in there left, it was not in the manual in the new one. It was discussed. I agree with Michael. If they're working 10-hour days, they shouldn't have to use 2 hours of their time. So obviously the policy definitely needs to be relooked at as to balance that out. I don't know where the ordinance originated or other than it just came to the commissioners in January of last year. So I guess the question there would be to legal. It has always been practice that it went to the department heads and the department heads distributed it to their employees. If there is a policy or a law that says that it is to go to every single employee from this day forward, it will be sent out to everybody. It's just not ever been done that way. But I know that it was out there.
The employee acknowledgement form says all such changes will be communicated to official notice and understand the revisions of information may but it'll be sent out to official notice, but each employee would have to receive that notice. And I've talked to all 12 of the people involved, and nobody was given official notice. And I don't know whose fault it doesn't matter.
I'll take
the problem is
responsibility on my end.
the employees were not notified of the change, through any kind of official notice until your email came out saying that we had to take back. And we had no idea that we were even being paid less than what we thought we were.
And I agree with them, and I'll take full responsibility, because there's no sense if you have to send it. Department heads have got a responsibility to take action, to do things the right way. And if I failed, I'm not even gonna blame Matt. So, I would like tonight, for the sake of moving on, we got a lot of things to do. Please go ahead and pay the guys through the rest of the holidays at the 10 hours. That is what they work a day. And if we need to come back and make some adjustments, because we're gonna have to make adjustments to the personnel policy. That's been eating at us for many, many years. Okay.
So the,
I'm just gonna speak on personnel policy. That was a huge issue for 2021, and obviously other things took precedent.
Yeah.
So that was in the works, and it got on the shelf.
And that's the reason we can't fault the employees, because of the changes, we're not.
I'd like to make a motion that do we have numbers, we have all the official numbers, Sheila?
First and second quarter were paid correctly, as at 10 hours.
Right.
The third quarter, we were only paid for 8 hours, and then the fourth quarter, she was gonna make the appropriation to fix the fact that we were paid for 10 and should have only been paid for 8.
But you have all the numbers, so if I make a motion saying we should approve the payment.
It would be
That
correcting the
report
third
to
quarter
whatever
and the
it was that
fourth
was
quarter
done.
added at the 10 hours, yes.
All right, fine, I make that motion.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Chuck, seconded by Burl. Any more discussion?
and I have some concern, I think we're moving a bit too fast, and the reason I say that is because I think it needs more research as to what happened and what needs to be done and the financial impact, nothing against paying the officers or anything. But we also have dispatchers and EMTs and paramedics who work different shift amounts in their hours, and those would all be in the same boat. So I think before we take a step and commit to something I think we should at least give it 30 days and let Jim come to us, explain what was on the policy, what wasn't done, what should be done, where does it need to go. Commissioners need to bring input in on this, and our EMS and our dispatch need to be at the table. Because are you gonna pay paramedics for every day they work? It's a 24-hour shift, so are we gonna pay 24 hours times?
If they get 10, it's only fair for us to get 24.
Right, and so we need to think about where we're going with this. I think the original policy was changed back down to the dollar amount more than the hours, because 8-hour day is an 8-hour day, so the value of that is what was transferred. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying that's probably what was going on there. And we also budgeted money based on the 8-hour basis. So if it's determined that there's a change or a fix, there's gonna be a dollar impact to dispatch, 911, sheriff, that we need to figure an amount on, and then we have to figure out how to pay for that, because it's gonna cost a lot of money. So just some thoughts, and I think it's probably worth waiting. Don't take anybody's money back. I leave it the way it is for now. We've got records, but put pause on it and then come up with more of an overall solution for all the departments that are affected. That's my suggestion.
But we're at a fourth quarter pay period.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
So
I don't really know we can act much on what's been done so far. I think we should just put hold on it and.
No,
Is there a way to
you're
correct
telling them-
yours and the EMS's as well right now?
My people were paid at 8 hours a day for holiday, so it would be adding 4 hours of pay for each holiday for each employee that worked.
Yeah, so I mean, as long as we've at least paid what we budgeted, I think that's fine for now. If some folks have been overpaid according to the policy and the policy is wrong or should be changed, we need time to review that part. I'm not saying that if someone got paid more than they should have, we're gonna ask your money back now. Just leave it the way it's been for now.
Then that's paying them 10 hours. That's the way it's been.
It was 10 hours.
I think we should at least put pause on that for now. They've been paid 10 instead of 8. That's to their favor.
I just want, my point was that we weren't notified of any kind of change. That's,
Yeah.
If it was 8, it was 8, but the fact that we weren't notified of it, we still are owed that 10 hours because we were never notified of a change. That's what
I think, and that's a valid question, but that, again, that's we need some legal assistance and review on that, so I think we're not in a position tonight for us to make that decision, but I think we should put pause on it and give it a chance to be reviewed and then come up with an actual solution.
I don't think we are, I mean, in what I see is we're not voting on changing the policy. We are trying to decide on whether, I mean, they have to pay back what, since they were not notified. Is that correct? On
I think
the,
the default is that
Not said at all.
Well,
Okay.
but Anton brought up a good point. And I understand the concept, what he's saying, I understand what Sergeant Brown is doing. When notified, then it's not the employee's fault. They shouldn't have to suffer. I know, I gotta take it out of my budget somewhere else to get them paid, stuff like that. But don't make them pay back anything.
right, and that's what that's the
Yeah.
issue that we were discussing.
That's why I'm saying hit pause on it, don't take money back from
Get the
people.
pay that they've got, they don't have to pay nothing back, continue with it, but we need to make sure that we get on this like ASAP.
Right.
Because it is gonna Chris and Kathleen.
I just want everybody to be, we got 12 guys that are supposed to pay back money for this pay period.
Yes and are you willing to wait for the rest of it if I can make it?
Yeah, absolutely, I just
I'm
want.
gonna withdraw my motion and make a new motion. I make a motion that we go ahead, do not ask for any money back from the overtime stuff. And in this motion, I'm going to recognize that the mistake and error has been made, the sheriff accepted that responsibility. Therefore, in my opinion, they need to be paid overtime, period. But at this time, they do not have to pay any overpayment back. The policy has to be addressed, and in my personal opinion, future, not future, but what was paid from till this January 17th needs to also be paid for overtime. Once your numbers and everything are in. Does that make sense? That gives you time to do all the research and find the numbers and where we're gonna pull the money out without having to pay the money up, but the money that was paid is held.
Yeah, it's not a matter of, it's not me doing the research, it'd be Jim and the auditors of what I think what I was.
Sorry, Jim's under the weather.
Correct.
He's a pretty good guy and I'm pretty sure he can.
He is very capable, yes. Okay.
Motion's been made by Chuck, seconded by Nick. Any more discussion?
The only concern I have with it is I think that I'm in favor of delaying it to do the research and come up with an actual plan of action. I think the motion actually has some action in it on certain things. And I totally agree with the keeping it the way it is, don't take money back, that part's fine.
Yeah.
But I think as far as, accepting somebody's fault in this and that we're gonna honor this through a certain time, I don't know if that's really necessary. I think we just need to give it some time and have an actual solution to consider in our next meeting.
And the only reason I brought that up is I'm sorry, Brown and Chief's only two here, but I'm gonna apologize to them because what that was sent to us as a directive to go to my employees, and I didn't pass that on, that responsibility becomes mine. So my apologies to you, Sergeant Brown, if you didn't get that email from me or the notes. But with that being said, policy handbook has to be changed.
I agree.
I'm not withdrawing that portion of it, I'm gonna keep it in there.
So, motion made by Chuck. You seconded, right, Nick? Any more? Let's call for a vote. All those in favor? 6 against, 1.
So just like to tell the guys, they're gonna get paid for 8 hours, because that's what your new ordinance says, and then if there's any change that we figured out from there. Is that what you're saying?
Chuck made the motion, I didn't quite follow all
For
of
the
it.
fourth quarter, I don't think that's disagreeable. What I'm saying is that any hold above that 8 hours is gonna be decided later, but I do believe that you guys deserve it. That's what my motion said.
And I think,
Does that make sense, sir?
yep, I think,
You don't want to be the one to pay back, I know.
Yeah, that was in the motion.
No, Sheila, I apologize if I didn't get it out, my fault.
I just want it fixed, and I agree, it should be the 10 hours. They should not have to use 2 hours of their personal time. That's not fair either. So,
We'll get it worked out.
Madam Chair, can we take a 10-minute break? In fact, if Sam's finished.
Yes.
I didn't.
Well, the last two items are fairly quick. It's whether EMS and asset management is gonna take a long time. I mean, realistically, if this isn't too much,
Oh, well.
Alright.
We'll finish
what's
it.
asset management? Who's got that?
it's mine, and we can table it till the next meeting, because we need to pull more
There we go.
Finish
Yeah.
up.
together.
I'm sorry, I wasn't trying to.
No, you're fine.
Trying to help there.
Let's do
Thank you.
Chris.
Well, first I want to say thank you for the additional appropriation, and to kind of touch base on the vehicle. We've been 3 years without an ambulance, to get an ambulance, so we have been sacrificing automobiles. We also, the Tahoe that we're going to be replacing should be replaced 2 years ago, so we are taking concessions, and I just want that to be known that the EMS just isn't taking. We've been making concessions there, but thank you for the additional appropriation on that. 2020, our run volume ended, as you guys recall, at 3,013 runs. This year, in 2021, we ended at 3,504. So almost a 500 run increase in 1 year.
What was the number again?
3,504 for 21. 3,013 for 20. So it's almost a 500 run increase. So that's just a little bit of information. Also, we have, right now I have 3 people out with COVID. We're already 2 people short. And I'm working a ton of hours, so we gotta keep the ambulances on the road, so. And then I just wanna touch base a little bit on the comment that was made about Pandora's box being open. Pandora's box was open way before Kathleen said anything and made proposals. It was just a matter of Kathleen got here first. I've kind of touched base with a couple of the council members already. I was kind of waiting to see what happened tonight, who our liaison's going to be and everything, to start putting some proposals together. But guys, my basic EMTs are making $12 an hour. You can go to McDonald's. They were advertising 14 here in town, so.
What are your EMTs doing?
12.19. My part-time incoming EMT is 12.19 an hour. So, that's really all I've got to say, unless anybody has any questions, comments, anybody wants to get up and punch me or anything, it's fine. But I'm gonna work on the proposal next week, or next month, so. I already started it, but then I didn't feel like I would have a good quality one by tonight, so I'd like to not to bring anything tonight. So, all right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Where's Jim's resolution on the job descriptions?
Okay, next on the agenda is salary ordinance confirmation summary.
Well, I'll make the motion that we allow the president the authority to sign those.
Second.
So, we're gonna have to pull some of them because of our previous decision on courts, but gonna go ahead and have you do whatever you need to do to sign those, good luck. And then Sheila will work on the internal stuff and we'll get those fixed, so.
Okay.
So there should be 2 sets, right, Sheila? One of them is a complete inventory of budget year 2022. So every single employee in our system, part-time, full-time, they have a start of the year, you know, kind of a fresh statement. This is what the wages are for the year, and that has been reviewed by multiple sets of eyes. It has been double-checked. You know, it's gonna be 99% accurate. I'm not gonna say 100, there's always mistakes, but if anybody sees any issues, they need to call the auditor's office as soon as possible. So for our department heads, make sure employees double check those, make sure that they look good, there's not some odd amounts, things like that, because we'll need to review those. So two sets. The second one of those two sets is the regular kind of employee changes from December. And those are all budget year 21. So there were several changes after our last meeting in December, whether it's some new employees or some other things like that. And so those are in there as well.
So you need a motion to accept those, right? The salary ordinances?
To allow you to sign them, yes.
You need a second on that?
Chuck gave the second.
Okay, second. Sorry about that. All those in favor?
Aye. Everybody in favor down there?
We are.
Okay. So, yeah, go ahead.
I am.
Sorry.
That's all.
No, you can speak for me. I already voted.
Okay, next on the agenda. So that was the ordinance confirmation summaries. Next is the 2022 salary ordinance and job descriptions.
All right, so at the last meeting, and again, Jim had worked on this, so I'm gonna speak on his behalf. We had a discussion about all the different parts and components to our pay system, job descriptions, policies. There's a lot of things that go together that make that work. Jim had put together a resolution to make sure that some of those dots are connected properly, and just for the record. The other thing we've discovered in our conversation in December is that even though the council had adopted the job descriptions that were a part of the job classification study, because we didn't actually modify or change our system of pay to match up with that, there seemed to be some confusion, and those job descriptions were already sent out, they were already signed for. So this resolution pretty much states, and I'll read it to you, and I wish Jim was the one reading this, but whereas pursuant Indiana Code 36253, the county fiscal body shall fix the compensation of officers, deputies, and other employees whose compensation is payable from the county general fund, county highway fund, county health fund, county park and recreation fund, aviation fund, and any other fund which the county auditor issues warrants for compensation. And whereas pursuant Indiana Code 36253A, the county has the power to 1, fix the number of officers, deputies, and employees, 2, describe and classify positions and services, 3, adopt schedules and compensation, and 4, hire a contract with persons to assist in development of schedules and compensation. And whereas in 2019, the Owen County Council contracted Wagner, Irwin, Shield, and Associates to classify and describe positions in Owen County government and to complete a compensation analysis. And whereas on November 14th, 2020, the County Council adopted Ordinance 2020-0061 titled, an ordinance adopting County of Owen, Indiana job descriptions. And whereas on December 13th, 2021, the Owen County Council adopted Ordinance 2021 and this is we need the number entered for our salary ordinance, titled 2022 Ordinance for County Wages, which incorporated the policy guidelines established by the Owen County Council Ordinance 2016-0001. And whereas the Owen County Council desires to amend Ordinance 2020-0061 titled an ordinance adopting Owen County job descriptions. And therefore, let it be ordained, the Owen County Council will do the following amendment. Section A of the ordinance of 2020-0061 is hereby amended by this ordinance to read as follows. The attached job descriptions describe the position, department, work schedule status, FLSA status, and duties of the position, and are adopted at the official job description as the official job descriptions for all county positions. In the future, as new jobs are added and or adopted job descriptions change, new job descriptions shall be prepared and updated and presented to the County Council for approval. Section 2, job category. The job category component of the job description is governed by the Owen County Ordinance 2021 and that's again the salary ordinance for 22, and the Owen County Council Ordinance on Policy of the Structure 2016-001. This amendment shall be in full force and in effect from and after its passage, approval, recording, and publication as provided by law, passed and adopted by the Owen County Council in this regular meeting held presumably today, 2022. So this has been reviewed by legal. The auditor agrees that it's needed. I think it's good that it connects all these dots. And so I make the motion that we enter this into the record and take action on it.
Is there a second?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Well, it says ordinance on the top. An ordinance? Yeah. What was the ordinance number for the salaries? Was
You guys,
there a number to it?
you didn't give it a number, you just made a
That'd be three
motion
then,
to.
right?
No, that was last
Because you did it in the last
Okay.
meeting. So it's just, and this being an ordinance, this will be 2022-004.
004. We just did 2022-003.
That was a resolution. This is an ordinance.
Question, Madam Chair.
Yes.
I want to ask Anton, open line this evening, this resolves the issue that Jack White brought up at our last meeting?
Doesn't necessarily address, hello Jack, it doesn't necessarily connect to him specifically, but I think one of the things that was important in that conversation that came up is the fact that those new job descriptions were handed out to folks like Jack a little prematurely. And so it is a clarification that those do exist and they're fine, but our structure is still the structure until that changes by the county council.
So under that structure, he is not entitled then to any additional pay for his schooling or?
Had Jim contacted you directly in the last week?
Not about this issue.
Okay. So the instruction from the last meeting was for Jim to review that and get with Jack directly. He does have all the documents back to 2008. He's supposed to get with you, Jack, and discuss that with him individually. I think it'd be inappropriate to do that in a meeting.
I talked to Jim today. This was never brought up.
Okay. So we need to make sure, and he's sick, I guess, or something, so I don't know.
I don't think you got your question answered, Nick.
I don't think that answers for me either. I'm not sure.
I would allow Jim, since it's a personnel issue, I think Jim needs to handle that. I don't think this is a professional forum to do that.
No, I'm not asking
So that's
you to
all I'm
do that,
saying.
but what this does is it codifies what we already had before. And if it doesn't say that, those who have educational, experience or education behind them, that he gets.
Yeah, this doesn't delve into that. This doesn't involve education or his position. This has nothing to do with that.
I'm not sure I agree with that. I think that was the whole reason we wanted Jim to come back tonight to explain it. Before, in my opinion, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but in my opinion, I really don't wanna vote on this until I got his explanation.
Yeah, again, this doesn't have anything to do with him.
No, I asked Jim if he would give us and find out what this, because it's clear in the 2016-001, there, that if they have education, to get an education component. It did not separate for me enough whether that educational component was to appointed, paid, salaried, or elected. It didn't separate that out far enough, and that's why I said to Jim, please look at it, come back and give us an answer.
Jim's got everything needed to answer that.
He's not here to give it to me before I make a motion.
But that has nothing to do with this, so.
But this
They're two separate.
confirms 2016-001.
But it's not really in connection to his position or his inquiry. That's a separate thing. This has to do with the overall structure and the overall connection of the job descriptions and all the components.
Did it refer to 2016-001?
yes, it's always going to do that.
Of course, and that's why I'm saying that particular thing there did not confirm for me. That's what I asked him to do, Jim, and in order for me to make a fully informed vote on this, I need Jim's opinion. That's what I'm saying, it's got nothing to do with Jim talking to.
All right, so let me ask this, if we delay, what does it hurt? I mean.
It just delays our work towards changing our structure, which I have another report to share with you on. This council voted to proceed with overhauling our compensation system, and we need to take steps to do that. March was a deadline.
Yes.
We're gonna waste a whole nother month now if we don't get this stuff cleaned up and proceed with the work of that vote. So if it's okay to delay that, that's fine.
No, how's it gonna delay it?
Because this is one of the steps outlined in one of the reports that we have to give on our compensation structure.
Okay, on one of the reports?
Yes. It's one of the steps.
Okay, so if it isn't stepped on next month, we can't still go ahead with that report? What does it exactly delay in the report?
All right. Do you wanna go over the report in full? Before we consider that?
I'm going to make a recommendation. My phone's dead. Jim is watching as we speak. Jim told me to call him if we had any questions. If we wanna get this ironed out and satisfied, and it needs to be satisfied, we can give him a call. And if that's, there seems to be mistrust, so.
It's not mistrust. I don't wanna make an uninformed decision.
Then call him. Let's call him.
Let's call him. I don't have his number.
My phone's dead. You have it on?
Madam President, she's got a phone.
I got my phone.
And I'm sorry, Jack, he was supposed to get a hold of you and all the answers are there. So I thought it would be professional for him and you to discuss that and go over it.
So I'm on speaker.
Okay.
You need his number?
I got it. May not recognize me.
He's probably watching and then not answering.
That's worse.
Well, he should know that we're trying to call him then. Jim, wake up, Jim.
Please leave your message for.
All right, first shot.
Okay.
Well, you can go ahead with the vote. I'm gonna be voting no until I get information.
So let me reiterate here, this is amending ordinance 2020-0061. And it is just.
It is connecting the dots between job descriptions, the compensation structure, the study we did, everything that's outlined in there is connected.
But it won't affect directly the issue that Jack brought up.
Correct. It doesn't settle that, it doesn't say yes, it doesn't say no, it doesn't change anything in our system.
That would be a whole different,
That's a whole different to-do thing that Jim has to do with Jack.
I've got a couple of questions here, guys. I'm really trying to keep my mouth shut. Because I told you, if you voted against me last month, I'd be done. I wouldn't come back to you and argue anything. A couple of my concerns are, and this is just my opinion, but this is what it appears to me happened. The 2016 ordinance didn't have any ties to the 2018 job description. That was essential to keep certain employees from getting the education component. And I think this ordinance ties the 2016 ordinance back to those 2018 job descriptions to solidify the spreadsheet. So it's not gonna change anything. That looks to me like that's what's happening. That was a lot of legal speak, but I think the attorney and Anton were the only two that worked on this. I don't know how that keeps happening or why it keeps happening.
tired of this stuff.
Okay,
This
so,
council is allowing it to happen.
well, let me ask you this. He just read it aloud.
Right.
So, no one is publishing a order that's not transparent or in front of anybody. So when you say, I don't know how this keeps happening, what's happening, Jack? What's happening that's being kept under the covers here?
Did any of you six, other than Anton, work with the attorney in the past month on this ordinance?
And you know what? I'm sure that
I
Jim
got a
has his.
question. Could I have an answer?
Yes, I have. Yes, I work
in on
with
the
him
discussion.
every week.
So you worked with him on this? Because when I talked to him several weeks ago, he said he was working with Anton.
Okay, let me ask you this. We know what it says. Anton, I want you to go on record right now. Was this published by Jim?
He's the one that wrote it.
Okay.
I'm not disputing that.
Okay, well, you had questions saying you wanted Jim, you know, that it's Jim's thing. You have an individual going on record. Now, you guys have to look at it and say, hey, you know what, does this make sense to me? And then we adopt it or we don't.
It's not gonna change anything with any of the appointed employees or the specialty employees that don't receive the education component now. What he's done is tied the 2018 job descriptions, which are supposed to be gone over and done with. He's tied them back to this ordinance, so nothing will change.
You know, last month, Jack, you said that if you guys vote on this, this is what you're doing. Now I feel like this month you're saying, if you guys vote on this, this is what you're doing.
That's because that's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, but
That's
you know
exactly
what?
what's getting ready to happen. I'm not sure everybody completely understands it, because that was a lot of legal speak.
We just read it out loud, okay? We know that Jim produced it.
Did anybody see the ordinance before tonight, or just Anton bring it and read it?
Well, we've got it in front of us, but I think.
I didn't even have the final copy. It was handed to me from the auditor.
I don't have.
So I didn't even draft the final
I
copy.
don't have a copy in front of me, which is why I still, you know.
It's just gonna solidify the way things have been for years. It's not gonna change anything. I was seeking change, and this is not going to change anything. If this council wants to continue to do that and not change that policy, like I said, you won't hear any more out of it. But they didn't have the threads tying everything back to after the new job description were adopted. You didn't have any paperwork that solidified keeping the people that you were keeping from getting the education complete. You didn't have any paperwork to do that. This is the paperwork that will solidify us continuing to not get that education component.
I don't think it spells out anything as far as your situation, Jack. I think it's adopted for a reason. I think that we could always change the specifics of it through a vote, but I don't think that it's a permanent, I just don't see it that way.
Okay, I'm sorry that there's some conspiracy here. There isn't. I don't play those games. People that know me know that I'm professional and I do the job of the council and do it correctly. So again, let's get the personal stuff out of this. The technical concern, I will tell you, Jim has the answer for Jack. He's researched this. He has all documents, including several that Jack requested, with him that he's reviewed to give him the answer he needs, okay? Now, I professionally do not think it's fair to Jack to bring up some kind of a personnel-related issue that Jim already has addressed and is going to get with him on. So, and I'm sorry, I don't want to bring that up. I don't want to put you in a weird position. That's just my thought on that. We can do that, but I just don't think that's right. We gave Jim the authority to do it, and he's just not completed it yet. Now, as to me, we still have to move forward on an overhaul of our compensation system. I've been talking about this for years. Finally, this council voted in December to proceed 6-0 on that plan. Now, we have to pick up where we left off to proceed further with that plan on the timeline that Mr. Hess had had thrown out there, which was March. That's kind of where we want to be. So we have drafted, and you've got that in your packets, we've drafted where we're at and the whole history and some of the steps needed to move forward. One of them is recognizing where we left off with the job descriptions, the new ones that were given out a little prematurely, but that is something we need to recognize and connect the dots with. That's what this does. We also need council direction on allowing us to proceed in building a new structure so that for our February meeting, we're in a position to dictate what options we want to see and and start the cost analysis component to that. Now, we can delay that by 30 days. That's fine. But I'm telling you, this is not a conspiracy. No one's against Mr. White. No one is singling his position out. And I think it's been very unprofessional and unfair to bring me into this as if I have something against him. I like Jack White. I think he does an outstanding job in what he does. I just think there's just some missing information here that somehow I'm getting tagged on. I'm not gonna have any ill feelings, but I think we need to allow that to be resolved properly through legal. And this is separate. This is something that involves our longer term plan and changing our system. Two separate things.
Chuck.
First off, I never intimated that this had to come public, nor that this was.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad.
What I'm saying is, the piece of information that I lack would be greatly helpful in understanding, so I can make an informed vote. So I will do this. Is there a motion on the floor currently?
Anton, gentlemen.
Well, I guess I did make the motion to proceed with.
Did somebody second it?
You did.
I did, good. Now we know where we're all at. Now, I would like to ask you, as the maker of the motion, Anton, to accept a friendly amendment, that I would like Jim to come back to us and explain to this, so that I can be brought up to speed. Is that fair?
More than fair.
There we go.
Any other discussion? Let's call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed? 7-0. All right, let's move along.
So also in the packet is a report that we put together that will be helpful to the council in bringing them up to speed with where we last left off on our compensation system.
Was this the same one that did we get this one in an email? Thank you. I have that one, but did we get this one in an email?
Yeah, so just to go over that real quick, there's an overview of what it is, a background of where we came from, and I'll be honest, some of this touches on some of the things that Jim's gonna be touching on here with Jack. But it does outline different policies, different dates, how things came together. Some of the challenges that we face, several of them are obvious, those are on page 3. And then action items, and the first step was to document and do this report. The second step was to pick up where we left off. We just talked about that with the resolution. This third step is for the council to begin building a new framework reflecting the consultant's recommended position classifications based on the factor evaluation system. So this is where you have your descriptions like the Comet computer office machine technician, professional, law enforcement, labor and trades, those categories that you probably have seen on numerous things. The council needs to give some kind of direction on proceeding forward with that so that we can start building a new system, and then we're in a position where we can come up with some cost analysis. The fourth step is the cost analysis. That's a little too early for that. And fifth step is obviously developing some kind of implementation and funding plan, again, in the future. But for now, I think the critical thing that's left for tonight is maybe the third step, and that's maybe the council giving a blessing to proceed in building and doing some work based on the new system. Also, there are attachments. That's why the stack is rather thick. It includes our original wage and salaries committee report from 2008, our original personnel policy from 2010, the last updated wage policy ordinance from 2016, the IU compensation study from 18, and the professional consultants full study and analysis from 2020. So everything has been packaged together in one place, and everybody has copies so that you have time to review and refer to that, so we're all on the same page. There you go.
You need that consensus tonight.
If you just give a general just a general consensus so that Sheila and I, we can proceed in putting some stuff together for you for the February meeting, that's kind of where we're at. Because it's a lot of work, and if the council's not wanting to do any of this, we don't want to waste our time, to be honest, so.
I call for consensus on this matter. I say yes.
Yes.
So do we need a motion for that?
No, we're just giving a consensus.
Okay.
So, yes.
Yes.
Okay, we will work our butts off for February. How's that sound?
Good diet plan.
Thank you.
Anything else? Elected official and department comments. Anybody have anything further to add? Yes.
I've been here for a while, and I remember when 911 came and you came, months after months after months, and then through them to the council back and forth and back and forth. And I remember it was said that she's the one here, she's gonna be the one that's gonna fight for her staff. She's brought a proposal. And then she can pay for it out of her own funds, that this isn't gonna cost the general fund anything. So it's approved. And somebody else said, well, and I don't see any other department heads here with any proposals. If they have a proposal of what they wanna do, they need to bring it. So I think most department heads want to bring it. And I think it's very unfair for some departments, mine doesn't even have to be one of them, that's only funded out of general fund. It's not their fault, it's just the way it works. They're just funded out of general fund. They don't have other funds, where other people can get grants or funds and maybe to help out. And some other things, like LIT is public safety. Public safety can be the prosecutor's office, the courts, probation, anything under public safety. It just doesn't have to be what it is. So there's other ways to look at things. You honestly ask us to. I reached out to Anton and I did say, hey, we would like to bring this. And he said, wait, and I waited. I was, and we were, like you said at the beginning, we were one of the first ones. We want to help. And we did help when the crisis came. But now you have asked us to come before you with proposals. So please listen to our proposals.
Tommy, a quick, when you say lit, you're talking about the public safety tax, correct? Okay.
Correct.
Attorney's not here.
Okay.
Are you still on department heads? I got a question before you move on past that. Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. I have a question about job descriptions. Is this group the right group to answer that question? Are you guys over job descriptions? Or then it's not the commissioners, it's the council?
Well, there's a little bit of a two-layered thing. Since your position is an appointed one that fits under the commissioners, they would have some developmental stuff going on there and what that position should be and all that stuff, and would ultimately sign off on what that job description should be. But then whatever their final configuration is, we would then adopt that as a part of the county's inventory for job descriptions.
Okay. I come to this group last month with a job description that was sent to me, and far as I knew, it was approved. And I was asked to sign it. And that's the job description I've been following for over a year. I brought it to last month's meeting, and Councilman Neff explained to me that I had the wrong job description. I was not following the correct job description. The one that I had not been approved by this group. And we were still operating under the 2018 job description. You guys all remember that? I think Councilman Hess at that moment even said, there it is. The comment, when he told me that. The next morning I get an email. The minutes from this group, from the November 2020 meeting, where Councilman Hess made the motion. Councilman Neff seconded the motion, and this group voted to approve those very job descriptions. What job description am I operating under? Because I was told two completely different things. I need an answer. I think the department heads deserve an answer. What year are we operating under?
The new ones.
So last month, I was provided wrong information.
So we had a lack of information, first of all. It was determined that those job descriptions were distributed by the auditor's office to all employees and department heads at the end of 2020. Now, I wasn't aware of that evening until it's been confirmed. So to avoid the confusion, that's why we brought up the resolution tonight, to make sure we incorporated those into the mix so we understand that those job descriptions are still valid and how that connects in with everything else in our system. But as far as that evening, that was kind of the first that we had found out, there had been, I don't want to say jump the gun, but there was action taken the end of the prior year by the auditor's office to send those out. The council's intent in that meeting, November of 2020, December 2020, the intent was to accept or adopt those as a report or product from the consultant. And that we did, and there's no dispute on that. But what happened is it became more of a formal, now we're all good and done, get them all out to everybody and have them sign it. And that's where the complication and the lack of information came into play. So actually, you bringing it up at the last meeting is a good thing, because that allowed us to say, okay, now wait a minute, where were we last at on that? What action did we take? Where do we need to go moving forward to make sure we're on good footing? That's being done. But those job descriptions are good and they're valid. So there shouldn't be any dispute on that.
Unless you watched last month's meeting on YouTube, you would have a question.
Yes.
And that hasn't been clarified by anyone. Anybody? What job description of the role?
Well, the new job descriptions are good.
Thank you.
Yeah. Because you said you had provided one to the state as part of your requirements.
Yes, every year with my EMPG, and I had to turn in a copy of my job description, and that's what I had been using.
And that's fine, there's nothing wrong with that, and you're good. So that's been all determined that after that review the next day. So you're good.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And those are the same descriptions prior auditor had sent out, and that is what every new employee,
yes,
I know for a fact in the last year has gone by, is those new ones. And again, everybody did have to sign for them back in 2020.
Yeah, and that was Jim's recommendation, because we met the next week, Sheila, Jim, and I, and determined, hey, instead of redoing all these job descriptions and doing this huge project, accept them and reaffirm them as the job descriptions, but do our diligence in making sure we connect the dots on all the other components to our system. And that's what the resolution was for. But it's clear now, but we needed to meet and we needed to get that stuff cleaned up, so.
I think Nick's turning yellow.
I know. Poor Nick, I'm sorry about that. So much for, are we, any other department heads, elected officials, can we move on now? All right, public comments?
Mayor Burnett, Jackson Township. Real quick, I really truly believe that from what I've read, this ready money that the governor's got, the $500 million he wants to give out, is directly connected to the so-called proposed upcoming Owen County Comprehensive Economic Development Program or whatever. And it's a way to get us into regionalism. And even though there's a lot of promotion on regionalism, I think that's the wrong form of government for us. It's not in the best interest of the people, even though there's lots and lots of money out there that they'll give you. They'll solve a lot of our problems immediately. The long-term effect of regionalism is really, really bad. And so I beg that the audience as well as the council members really study regionalism and find out what it's really about, because that's coming up real soon. I'm done.
Any other public comments? All right, let's move on while the attorney's not here. Auditor, Sheila.
2022 liaison appointments.
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to bring up a question on that too. We could probably dump the IT one since we no longer have an IT department, we have a contract.
True. I think we need to keep them the same.
Do we want to keep the same? Does everyone want
Yeah,
to
it's
keep
fine
that?
by me.
Is that okay?
Looks
Do
good.
we need a motion or anything, or just?
Yep.
We do?
I'll make a motion that we accept continuance of the liaison appointments from 21.
I second that.
Motion made by Anton, seconded by Earl. All those in favor? No. Great. Anything else, Sheila?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Sorry there, friend. I'll be here.
Good job.
Oh, thank you, Earl.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
See you, buddy.
Yes.